Oh, in the top right-hand corner, you can either do a grid view or a speaker view, for those of you unfamiliar with Zoom. Welcome, Tad.
Sorry,
Hello.
your email talked about 4:15, so I thought, oh, that's 5:15.
Ah, yes. I was wondering about that. Yes, no, CET, I'm afraid, Tad. So sorry to have to
It doesn't matter.
Out, but,
but the best part is my computer was giving me problems, so I turned it off. So I've had to use my phone, but I happened to notice are you coming to join us?
Well, you know, all hell what's up. Yes.
The trouble is that sometimes if someone sends me an invitation for a meeting and I don't know, it's 10 a.m. in the US, it will automatically tell me it's 3 p.m. In my diary, it'll put 3 p.m. But you said 4:15, so I assumed that was 4:15 Belgian time.
Well, that's actually entirely on me. I must apologise, and to all the membership, I've had lots of technology issues this last week. My Outlook decided to do an update, pull in about 400,000 emails from my backup in the cloud, and consequently completely froze. I have not been able to unfreeze it since. I've got my Illus mail, my ABRA mail, and my Heart mail all within the same Outlook client. And I've been trying to make things work with Gmail backups and SiteGround backups, and it's just been a disaster from there on. So really, entirely my fault why it's not in your agenda.
When it rains, it pours.
It does.
I tried to open a bank account for EuRA, and they sent me this customer number, and then they sent me another customer number. And the woman told me the customer number over the phone, and I thought she said S, but she actually said F.
Oh.
So I got very stroppy with them because I couldn't get into this account, and of course it turns out I got the wrong reference number. There we go. It's all sorted. It's all happy now.
It is. We're all here now. So
yeah.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think maybe we have a lot of full members, so a lot of people will know you. There's a lot of affiliate members who may not know you.
Right.
Tad is the Chief Executive of EuRA, which is the European Relocation Association, and our sister organisation, really. I suppose you were involved in the founding of ABRA, but we've been operating independently from each other ever since, though working closely together.
Yes. And I remember the day that I came to the formation meeting of ABRA. I got all the way to London to discover that I'd forgotten my passport and had to go back and get it. But by some extraordinary piece of luck, I got there on time.
Oh, well done. Well, you'll never forget that one then.
No, I won't. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. So as we were talking last week, EuRA's actually, ARP, which is the Association of Relocation Professionals in the UK. You've been very busy sort of trying to gain recognition for the industry.
We have indeed been busy. I'm not sure how successful we've been, but we've been very busy trying to gather statistics and information about the industry. I've tried to do this in the past, and I sort of met with a brick wall. People didn't really want to give me information about how much they were charging or whatever. But I think COVID-19 had a sort of effect on people thinking, oh my God, we have to do something because otherwise we're going to disappear off the face of the earth. So I put together this short survey, which I sent to everybody individually. And 55% of those I sent it to actually responded, which means it has some validity. Now that my computer has decided to switch on again, I'm going to try and find the information that we got out of it. But I have to say it was quite staggering. oh, hold on. It was quite staggering to discover the value of the relocation industry in the UK. And the amount that we came to was £5.8 billion. This is not sadly the fees paid to relocation companies, because if it was, we wouldn't be worrying. This is everything you can think of associated with a move, from corporate housing, which, by the way, corporate housing or temporary housing is about a quarter of that sum of money, and that was worked out on the basis. There's an organisation called the ASAP, the Association of Service Department Providers in the UK. They have members, in fact, around and about the place, in Europe as well, and they had calculated what their market was worth, and we decided that at least 50% of their market was corporate housing. So that forms well over £1 billion worth of business. And as they're currently operating at 30%, they've lost 700 million quid, which is quite a lot of money. We also asked people to give us average figures for fees, which turned out to be, pretty reasonable, and they came out at around about just over 2,200 euros, something like that, as an average fee. But they did range from quite low in this case of some smaller organizations to really quite high in larger organizations. And the other thing that was very, very interesting is the question of what percentage of clients are RMCs and what percentage of clients are not RMCs. And it is interesting to note that in reality, the majority, I'm not saying the vast majority, but the majority of clients are not RMCs. RMCs, I think, I'm trying to find, having managed to turn this thing on again, I'm trying to find the actual document.
Just to clarify for the non-Euro members, an RMC is a relocation management company, which is different to a destination service provider or a DSP.
Yes, they hold large contracts with large global companies, and then they pass work out to immigration consultants, DSPs, etc., etc., etc. It's just coming. I'm sorry, it's a bit slow. Anyway, so that was another interesting thing to note, and there were other things like, unsurprisingly, moving companies had taken a massive hit in their activities over the recent period. The other thing that we found was that other groups were also suffering. In fact, we were all suffering. But one of the things this has done is it pulled together a group of people in the UK who actually started having meetings, talking, just discussing how they felt, what they were doing. I'm not sure, I don't know, do you have furloughing in Belgium, or have you got something different?
We do. There's a number of different financial support measures that have been implemented over the last few months. A lot of companies have put staff on furlough, and I think they're at 75 or 80% of their full wage. But there's also support measures for companies that have been forced to close their offices or their outlets or whatever you call it. And that will, I think it ranges between 2,500 to 4,000 euros a month, depending on what region you're in. And then for the independents, there's also a small amount of money that there's different kinds of plans and programs, but of course, none of these make up for the fact that you've lost business, everything's on hold, and you just end up circling in some sort of endless Sunday morning holding pattern with life sort of moving on, but not really at all, and it creates a lot of insecurity, I think, for organizations as well as their people.
Well, I think that the insecurity in the very early stages, the insecurity is what brought these DSPs together to talk to one another. That was before we understood what furloughing meant. Personally, it sounds like furlong, which is a racehorsing piece. So I thought it had something to do with horses, but never mind. But we're in the UK, if you're on furlough, you're not allowed to work.
Same here. You can sort of check your email and reply to the essentials, but that's got to be it.
I don't think you're even allowed to do that here. Anyway, I've got the results of this survey now in front of me. The number of corporate transfers we calculated to be 24,042 in a given year, of which 17% were domestic, 76% were international coming into the country, and 7% were international going out of the country. Direct clients, as I said, was 58%, and delivered by a third party, i.e. an RMC, 42%. And interestingly enough, long-term transfers formed 75% of the business, and short-term only 25%.
That is interesting.
We also asked the RMCs the same questions. That was the DSP. Now the RMCs considered that they handled 38,360 moves, of which 66% went to DSPs. So that's part of the 24,000, you know. And a 34% was handled in-house. Domestic moves were a paltry 4%, and international 96%. And again, the short-term, long-term was almost exactly the same. We asked other people, including furniture rental companies, to see what was happening with them. And they basically reported that very little was going on, obviously. But business turned down 100%. That's very little. And we also calculated that their portion of the market was worth something like £20 million. So it's not a big part, but it's an important part. But the other things we were looking at were schools, family support, cleaning, insurance, inventory, property management, financial services, legal, immigration, property finders, and corporate housing. So it's all sorts of different things were thrown into this. And it was a very interesting exercise. And the 5.8 billion isn't necessarily, that's not all relo companies, but that includes what the relo companies do. So it's a very it gave us results that, well, I had no idea what I was going to get, and I was really quite surprised. But then we have to remember that on top of all that, the whole point of this was to say to the government, we're very important to the economy. On top of that, the people coming into the country are spending money. The assignees are spending money. They are earning money. They're paying local taxation. So there we go. The companies they're working for are generating income. In the main, they're paying taxation, unless they're trying not to. But the fact is if you blow this whole thing up, effectively the relocation industry is supporting a huge part of a local economy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a lot of added value created there. And I think unless you're in the mobility industry, it's still perceived to be very niche.
It's perceived to be very niche, and we're like a stealth industry. Nobody sees us, and we need to be seen more. And we need to be valued for what we do. And that includes, it's not just the DSPs, it's all the other guys, all the affiliate members within ABRA, ARP, EuRA, whatever. They're all part and part of this industry. This survey was not just about relocation, the relocation side of it. It was about the whole thing. And we have, I haven't actually done the results yet, but we have also sent a similar survey, a little bit more, you don't have to identify yourself, but what we did was we sent the same survey to everybody in Belgium and everybody in France, everybody in Germany, to see if we can get some results across Europe, to see whether or not we can find some comparable types of numbers. But I mean, if the UK is worth 5.8 billion, then Germany's got to be somewhere about the same, if not slightly more. Obviously, Belgium is going to be slightly less because you've got a smaller population, and France is going to be pretty high. But if you start adding all these figures together and you start thinking about the world in general, we're sort of heading towards 1 trillion.
Absolutely, and don't forget the Belgium. We've got all the European institutions, NATO, and so on and so forth. So we might be anomalous.
Belgium will be different. You're going to be much higher than your sort of population suggests, and that's, you know. But it's the point about this is we are a very important contributor to economies in general.
Absolutely, I think everybody here will agree with you.
Yes. Now let's go out there and make some money.
Yes, absolutely, and do because I've reminded our 4 members who are relocation service providers and members of EuRA to complete the survey, but we haven't sent it out to our affiliate members yet, and those are the international schools, the banks, the insurers, the housing providers. So I don't know if there's a separate survey for them or if it's all the same.
I'll send you the different questions for the different sectors.
Perfect.
You can do that separately, but it will help. It adds to what's going on, basically.
Absolutely. I think it would be good to join forces in this. We've been talking about recognition for the industry for a long time, and like yourselves, people sort of look at you and go, really, there's people who organise.
Yes.
You know, finding a house and a school and a vet for your dog, and they don't realise.
The whole point of ABRA in the first place was getting recognised as being a separate from real estate, which was incredibly important. And, you know, that is something that we've all strived for in various countries. You know, the ARP is constantly trying to prove that relocation companies are not estate agents or real estate agents. But this is now moving on to a totally different thing, talking about how important we are to the country. Anyway, so that's my 10 minutes.
Well, thank you, Tad.
Thank you, Tad.
I'll hand over to...
I was actually in on time, even though I was an hour early, according to me.
It's amazing how these things sometimes work out in the end after all, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, perfect.
So, yes, no, thank you. Thank you, honestly. It's been a pleasure, and I think we should hand over to Eric.
Yes, but yeah, thank you, Tad, again, to share with us all these extremely interesting figures and information, and hopefully we'll get something out of that, at least some food for thought for all of us. Well, it's usually the time when we come to the real fun part of the meeting, when we are all able to share a drink and talk. So I really sadly regret that we are not able to do this together this time, and well, really wish that we can that our next meeting will be a physical one and not an online one, even if this one went quite well, I think, technically speaking. So you know, really thank you for all your participation. Thanks again to all the board for all the excellent work that has been achieved over the last year. and hopefully we'll meet again soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.